My name is Thomas Kjaersgaard. I lead the enterprise sales for Office 365 in 8 countries out of Western Europe. I've been in this role for close to 5 years, so I've been through all the pain and all the grain and all the good things that are hopefully coming and all the things that I know that you are facing as partners and have been facing as partners. Let's try to make this approximately 1 hour as interactive as possible, so just ask me questions. I have plenty of slides. I normally hate slides, so I would rather just run them through and you can just ask me whatever you want to. I will try to cover what I have been told to cover, which is what are we doing with our largest enterprises across Europe and how do we work with you as a partner. What I specifically will be focusing on is what are the obstacles, what are the blockers, and what are the customers on the CXO level saying to us. And hopefully that can help you within your own business, build your business, and know how to interact with customers. I see that it's not a matter of the size of it. What I'm going to cover is some of the largest multinational customers in Europe, but I think that you could also reflect that down to a 100-seat customer, whatever. Ask me questions, as I just said, as we go along. I'll try to cover what are the key resources within the customer, what are the main blockers, as I just said. We have something called our customer decision framework. You've probably heard about it. I will just skip and slide that through very, very gentle. Then I was told by the Swedish sub here that I should come into that, so I'll just, again, switch to touch it. I will also touch what we're doing with the cloud principles. If you don't know what that is, I will explain that. And what is our matureness model around cloud in general? And what have the customers told us 3 or 4 or 5 years ago? And what are they saying now? And how can that interact within the way that you are doing business? And then, hopefully, the thing that you will get most out of it is what are the customers saying on this CXO level, on the highest level. I have 3 or 4 customer examples, and I will actually show you the business case from where they came from and how they got to the cloud. Even high sensitive numbers and figures. Hopefully that will help you a lot. You've probably seen this slide. It's a marketing slide, and it's blah, 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 blah. And that's just how it, right? The most important thing, if I were you as a partner, even though that I know that you probably never touched any of these customers, maybe just heard of them, the most important thing here, that's the thing on the top. That now we have more than 20 million users in our cloud service. And all this comes down to 3 things that I will repeat during this session. It's around trust, it's around relationship, and it's around you as a partner and we as Microsoft doing the right thing. And that number up there showing that we're doing the right thing. Because no customer will take the effort and the journey and jumping into this cloud solution if they were not ready or they haven't seen other customers already doing this. This is a huge matter of not being first mover. Every customer feeling in their stomach saying, I'm 80, 90% sure what I'm doing right now. It might be okay, but I need the last jump start to actually make this happen. And that numbers up there show you, and hopefully also the customers, that we're heading in the right direction. I've been engaged, here we actually also have a couple of Swedish customers, as you can see. I've been engaged with some of these customers on the very, very high level, on CEO, CFO, CIO level. And a lot of the conversation here is not about Office 365. That's about the way that the business should transform. I know it sounds like a buzzword, but all CIOs and especially all IT departments right now, as you know, are heavily under pressure of cost saving, agility, flexibility. The business is saying we want to move faster, we can't do it. So from a competition and an orchestration point of view, that is what on the agenda on the very, very high level. And I think that you as a partner needs to have that conversation with the customer. Of course, you also need to go into the IT department and figure out how to migrate to the cloud, of course. But having that conversation and being the partner within the customer, that will help you a lot. It will also help you drive your business. And I will come up with some examples what other customers and partners, especially partners, have done across Europe, and where they're making money on especially having that conversation with the customer. Because that's the key thing for getting in, but it's also the key thing for the customer to make the next move. And that is where they're ready to invest. They don't want to invest in migrating to the cloud. That's just an interim thing of getting there. They want to invest in doing the right thing. And that's the conversation I think that you should have. So how do you do that? I mean, nobody have the right answer for that. Nobody. You can ask yourself, you can ask us, you can ask Google, you can ask whatever. There's no right result here. But there's definitely one learning that I've done in the last 5 years doing this job. And as I said, with a smile starting up, I've been in this for the early days, so I've been taking all the beating and all the that you're not ready, Microsoft, and what the dude are you doing, and come on and step up and all that stuff. But having the conversations with the majority of stakeholders within the business, that's the most important thing. If you think, or if we think, or if Google or Oracle or Salesforce or whatever think that they can drive business on a long term, just having a conversation with one individual or one part of the business, I think that we're all mistaken. In 1 or 2 cases, it might be okay. But in the long term, you need to have the agility and flexibility also within your own organization to be able to have that conversation. Because that is where you build the bridge. And that is where you make the effort. And that is especially where you make the last mile of making this a business value add for the customer. And when I'm saying that, that is that you need to, I don't say that you need to be legal lawyers and experts within all these things, or you need to have a very, very level 400 deep discussion around security, but you need to be able to touch those certain areas, to have that conversation, to bring it to a level for the customer that you as a partner understand the issues that they are facing. Because when you're talking to the CIO or the infrastructure lead or the security guy or whatever guy you're talking to, or when they want someone within the business, they see themselves as sitting in the middle there, and they don't know where to go. After the meeting with you or with us, they are flagging with their eyes saying, okay, what do I need to do next? How do I actually solve all the issues that I know that are coming up the minute that we are talking about migrating to the cloud? It's easier when you have large customers, like I just mentioned before, where of course you have an IT department of 500, 1,000 or 2,000 people, because then they're all there. On smaller accounts, all these guys are not there. Maybe they are covering some of the areas, maybe within one role, but you need to be able to handle that conversation, and then you're bringing value, and then you can sell it much faster and much easier to the customers. That's just something, not just something that I'm saying. We actually made a lot of surveys just around that, and that shows that when you as a partner have the ability to have that conversation, you are closing the deals faster and you're bringing more value. At the end of the day, a lot of your work, I know that a lot of the money at the end of the tunnel lies, of course, in the migration project and the governance model around that, but you need to have that conversation first. I'll be happy if I get challenged on this, but that's how I see it, or how we see it. So as I just said, the experience have taught us that it's a lot of things that we need to go through, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Sometimes, the reason why I bring up this slide, because sometimes it goes like that. It goes like, first we have that conversation, then we have the next conversation, then we have the next conversation. The next customer you come out to, it starts with number 5, and then it jumps to number 2, and then back to number 3, or the other way around. And the customers are just as frustrated or just as eager to learn as we are and you are. And they don't have the right result, and neither do we. The only thing that they know within the IT department especially is that they are pushed, maybe from the CXO or even higher, saying, we need to figure out what is all this cloud. You probably heard that a lot, right? What is all this cloud? Do we as a company, should we go there? Is it actually okay? What is the business model? What is the economical justifications around it? But they're pushed to get you an answer, to get the answer. Whether they will go there or not, that's another thing. But they're pushed to get an answer. And if you can go into them and saying, together with Microsoft, we can have these conversations within your organization. And I think that we should set up a governance and project model where we will take care of that on behalf of you. Then you can start making money more or less at the very first day. Instead of going in and saying, we know that there's a huge project coming up on migration. We know it's a huge mountain to climb. Don't worry, Mr. Customer, we will help you. If you start with that conversation, they see all the blockers before that they see the end value. They need to buy into the end value first. We have done all these mistakes ourselves at Microsoft, so we know how we shouldn't do it, because that's one of the lessons learned that we have 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it's a very important stake. And some of the large partners around the globe, maybe you are in the room here, I don't know, they have taken up this model, and they can now see and they can now start leveraging on that, getting that model into your DNA and the way of running your business. It will help. So the customers are challenging us, and then we also have the other angle. Of course, you maybe are supporting us, you may be also supporting other vendors, fair enough. And then we have the analysis saying something else, and the customer saying something false, and all that. So you need to maneuver in that landscape, and that's a really tough game. We know that. And when I was talking, we have something called our partner conference in US. I was talking at that partner conference 3 years ago when we were not on that maturity level that we are today. And I came from the partner channel, so I know what you're struggling with. And everybody was sitting in a room like this saying, get the fuck out of Microsoft. You're ruining my business. You don't know what you're doing. You're taking everything away from us and all that stuff. And we get that. But hopefully now we also got to that point saying, if you try to look into the way that the customers want this and not we or you, then you can start leverage that model much earlier. The reason why I'm mentioning it, the last survey we did internally, I don't know if even one here is from Avanade or Accenture. They were one of the first partners on a global basis. I know we can scale that all over, but it's a good example that they took this one up, and they are actually now making money out of the slide I just showed you before. And many of those projects are actually not coming to an end result with a migration, with a transformation to the cloud, but they are making consultant money upfront on leveraging that model on how to utilize and evangelize the cloud business itself. Of course, that is also a transformation model within your business. You're used to, I will assume, that you have IT folks and a lot of architects and things like that. And now you need to mix and match, saying, do we also need real consultants in our company? Maybe, or maybe not. Of course, that's up to you to decide. But I would say you at least need the project management skills within your resources to be able to have that conversation. And of course, in close conjunction with us at Microsoft. So if you haven't taken that up already, I think it's a great way to start, and I know that the Swedish up here are eager to help you and can leverage that. So here's the thing, said with a smile, that this is the way that Microsoft drives the business. We call it the customer decision framework. It's a very structured and organized way of doing business. We started out with this model 4 years ago. It was called something else. It was called internal selling guidings to the way that customers should adopt cloud. It was really huge. Now we have simplified it, hopefully. The good thing about this model, and this is partner focused, you can take this up directly. There's an adoption model on the partner TechNet where you can take this model up. The good thing about this model is it's very structured, it's very organized, and it's very next step. Some customers say, Microsoft or partner, you're moving too slow. And that's fair enough, because then they actually understood the meaning and the purpose of this, because the meaning of the purpose is exactly that we are making sure that we go through every step and we're not missing anything. So when we come to the now you should actually implement it, we haven't forgot something 2 months ago. And that's a very structured and very organized way of doing it. And when you're competing, of course, internally within the partner ecosystem, but also towards other vendors, bringing this one up, it will help you a lot, because this is the way that IT business within the customers that you're talking to normally, hopefully, are driving business in general. They have a project model, and now you're coming with a project model saying, we're here to help you. It's back to that orchestration model where they have so much uncertainty on what to do. Here's a model. This is how we supposed and propose that you should do it. And if they get that, and if they get it when you walk it through, hopefully you will get a project very, very soon in the sales cycles. And then we have something called fast track. I will skip that. You probably know that already. This is a more detailed model, and I actually encourage partners to show this directly to customers. Normally, it's a very busy slide, and there's many things. But just to have that as a one-pager, you don't even need to bring your PC, print it out. No, I know it sounds very old-fashioned. And just having a conversation over the table around, this is how we think that you should adopt the cloud vision in general. Not talking Asia, not talking Office 365, not talking whatever. This is the steps that we know that you need to go through, no matter if you decide to go to the cloud or not. You need to have certain assessment within your own company. If you're having that conversation, you will bring those 3 words, buzzwords back, as I said before: trust, relationship, and confidence. That's the 3 main things. They will never ever buy anything from you or from us if you can't deliver those 3. Never. They might at the very end buy whatever project over here, because now they have some urgency and things are running out of support and everything is broken. But that's another thing. Then you're not doing real business. Then you're just trying to make them survive, right? But bringing in that, it will help you a lot. The reason this is not to go through, this is more that I know these slides are handed out afterwards, so you don't need to go through all the links. They are here, so you can just look them up directly and hopefully take advantage of these slides directly. When we started this journey 5.5 years ago, it was called BPOS at that time. I don't know how many of you have heard that very bad acronym. Going through that slide around the customer decision framework are leading into the discussion: what is Microsoft doing, and how can you as a partner help the customer? What are we going to migrate? How does the interoperability landscape look like? How many of my line of business applications can I still interact with when I go to the cloud? When Microsoft says that I'm in control, what does that actually mean? What does it mean when I need to upgrade my clients and my backend and my network? And what about a lot of user examples? Having the discussion around the way that Microsoft handled this, what we call cloud principles, are very, very good. And a way to leverage that model, that is to learn from others. And I will say that if you haven't had that conversation, and I know you're stepping out on deep water, bring a Microsoft guy, girl, whatever, that resource that have had that conversation to your customer, or take it internally, invite them to you or come here and have the conversation on how to drive this. Because that helps a lot on the second phase, not on the first phase that I just talked about around getting them the confidence and the trust. But okay, then how are we going to do it? And what are Microsoft actually controlling when I'm getting into the cloud? Which is very, very, very important step. Now I'm up there. Customers already figuring I'm up there. Are then they owning everything? What about our data? How can I get control of it? What about if I need to offboard later? What about my users? What about legal? What about local legislation in Sweden? What about all these conversations that of course pops up? This is the conversation to have. So if we should narrow this down to a one-pager again, having a conversation around this, hopefully also bring that confidence that we actually have thought things through. We are not the arrogant big IT company. I'm saying this with a smile because that's what we hear a lot. That are just saying you just move to the cloud and then we take care of the rest. You need to have a conversation around all these topics. You're very, very quiet. I hope it makes sense. Okay, so I talked about when we are engaging that one very, very busy slide, the one-pager slide. And the reason why that dollar sign is up there is that now, hopefully, the model should leverage that you can start making money at the very first phase. First of all, that's very important to you. It's important to us that you are happy and you're making money. The other one is, it is driving the adoption model much, much faster. I will come to a slide just in a minute. We have asked 185 customers and 40-something partners just around this, where they've had success with this. The good thing about it, the minute that I start getting money between you and the customer, they are much more serious of driving this to the end and actually showing results. Sometimes they maybe already upfront know that when they get to here, they don't want to go to the cloud. And in some cases, that's actually fair enough, because again, they are pushed from the top management saying, we need to figure out, is the cloud model ready for us as a customer? And on a very high level, not even without the IT department, sometimes the CFO or the COO or someone like that, HR, I've heard about even, have money to make that survey to figure out how can we leverage that, all these levels through. So if you make it over here, you have a huge way of getting into a success rate of getting into the real IT project. And of course, this is where the money lies, especially when you get to phase 3 and then phase 4. And again, the 3 words, especially here around confidence, when you have done it the first time, it's not a Microsoft reference, right? It's your own reference to other customers said, we have already done this and we have actually followed this model because it makes sense for you as a customer. This is the model that I just talked about. I don't know if you've seen this slide before. When I was in the partner channel 8 years ago, I was normally laughing at Microsoft making slides around this because you're just something from Seattle and you're just making things up. But there's actually at the link at the very last slide, you can actually see the customers behind this. So from the first time, I also think it's getting real essential, and there's some value behind this because you actually see customers who have done their survey and have been willing to open up and making the effort of saying, yes, it is true, the project management and the cost around XYZ component was in the assumption around this this amount and this amount and this amount. And I think that if you are talking about 1,000 seats customer and you can make around $100,000 in average, it's a good project. It is definitely growing from what we saw 3 or 4 years ago, when I know that all you were saying to us, Microsoft, you're taking the business away from us. We used to have a huge Exchange or SharePoint or Link on-premise projects that lasted for a very, very long time. We could bring in a lot of our resources and we can leverage on that model. If you can multiply that by 3 or 4 now and have the 3 or 4 in parallel customer engagement, maybe with a lower barrier and maybe with a lower margin, but with a higher cost, I think at the very end, it makes sense. But please challenge us on this, not on this number, because again, there's a survey behind this, but when you, in your daily business, figure out this is not the way that we think the model is, come back to us and then we're definitely open and definitely willing to look into this. And here my favorite slide. I made it myself, that's why. Those 3 words, it comes up again and again and again. Trust, confidence, and relationship. The CXO are relying on us. There's a quote in 2 or 3 slides from now. The Shell CIO, Eric Betts, I know him very well. He's driving the largest IT organization in the world. $1.2 billion IT budget a year. That's some kind of budget. He was saying to me and our former CEO, Steve Ballmer, when we had a meeting with him last year when they started migrating to the cloud, our job is at stake, Microsoft. You are responsible. And he was using even worse word than this. And it is true, and we know that. And of course, now I'm just talking about one of the largest customers in the world, but that also goes for the customer just around the corner. It's the same for them. Their jobs are at stake. Your reputation are at stake. So is ours. So we need to do this properly. So I think that That's how I sell to customers when I'm meeting with them. I'm using that business slide I showed you just before to saying we know that your job is at stake. We also know that if you're doing this right, you will be the hero internally because you will give the business the agility, flexibility, and all that stuff that they want if we're doing this right. But of course, it's a joint effort. We need to do it right. And the way of doing it right, that is to make sure that we go through all the right steps through this customer decision framework, making sure that we are not just headless thing that now we're just migrating and we don't know if we have upgraded the clients or if the browsers are not compatible or if we have end user lined up business applications that can be run in the cloud or whatever it is, or our network latency is just simply too bad so we get bad user experience in India or South Korea or whatever. Of course we need to do that work, but that's a part of your selling effort, saying if we're doing this and you give me, and when I say me it's you, that carte blanche, I will make sure that we do the right governance of driving this. And then we're in this together. Of course at the very end it is the CIO or CXO who will sign off, but then he is making sure that you're in a very, very close and tight relationship are doing the right thing. We've seen this, unfortunately, and we take the blame, too many times going bad. Not in the last year or 18 months, but 2, 3, 4 years ago, it was headless also from our perspective. And we, again, I'm saying this because we simply hadn't done the due diligence hard enough. We thought it was an easy going to make the right migration project on how to do the planning, but there's so many other things around this. I know I am repeating myself, but I'm doing this because maybe that's the most important thing of it all. Okay, let's talk about some business cases. I skip this. I brought out some customers here. Most of them are happy. I love quotes. Of course, we all do that, and it's so easy to make, right? But what lies behind those quotes? What lies behind those quotes is, as I just said, when you are starting the conversation with the CXO or with the mandate, with the guy or the girl that have the mandate, that's also good enough. I'm not saying all the time that you need to talk to the CIO at the company. If you're talking to a guy or a girl that actually have the mandate of doing the right thing and making the right choice, it's just as good. But they need to know, what have other customers done? How did they get there? It's back to the trust thing, as we just talked about. Is it measurable? How can you? They will point at you saying, how can you help me show to my organization that this is not just a cost-saving thing? Of course they need to save cost. All IT, as I started out by saying, all IT departments are hugely under pressure, right? They need to lower the cost year by year by year. But most CIOs, or even infrastructure managers, security guys, they have other KPIs than just cost. They also want to show that they are doing the right thing within the business. And that is where you can make them the hero. If you can say, on measurements, if we make the right due diligence, we are sure that you have a greater uptime or you have easier access on other devices than you had yesterday or whatever it is. It could be a end user benefit, it could be IT infrastructure thing, or it could be something else, or you are hiring the way that you are running security standards, whatever. Then they are happy. So you need to find out what is measurable and how and what is important for them. I have one vision on what I see as a top and bottom line, you have another, and they have a third one. And you need to link that in so it makes sense. So as I'm saying, direct savings is still number one. That is, you need to have that conversation with them. What do you mean by savings, Mr. Customer? Is that upfront savings? Is it over 3 or 4 or 5 years? Where does those savings come from? Does it come from stupid things like the way that we are doing cooling or the way that we are doing insurance on our hardware? You can have the most detailed conversation around TCOs. Or is it more on a lot of other things? And since everything is moving to the cloud, even if we like it or not, it is. then you of course need to have that conversation. What does that bring to you from an innovation business perspective? If you go to the cloud, what other projects do you, Mr. CIO, think that you can deliver to the business tomorrow? And then hopefully you're already starting up the next project. He will see you as the guy or girl that can be trusted. So when you close the migration to the cloud, hopefully you're already seeing the next project in your pipeline, because then you may be having a discussion around enterprise mobility or how to get easy access to users that normally don't have access to mail or other collaboration stuff. That comes directly within that conversation. It's a tough conversation to have. We know that. We have some tools that can help you. It is also on that link page that I just showed you before. You probably have your own way of doing TCO analysis and all that stuff. It's great. But I think that you should give you both yourself and also your customer that effort to go through that model. Again, it brings a lot of confidence that you're doing the right thing, and you're actually also doing it not the normal IT way. I'm not here to talk you out of your business. I'm just here to say that things are changing, and that's just how it is. So, just to repeat it, I think I already went through this. It should be easy to understand. The reason why I started out by saying that I don't like slides, and I'm already on page, I don't know what, 20, whatever. It is because it needs to be simple. We need to keep this simple. The minute that the CIO are going up, either if it's his or her own project, or needs to be signed off by the CFO, and you're coming to them and saying, here we have, I'm partner XYZ, it costs, bang. You need to deliver that message so simple. So he and she can go up or have an internal steering committee meeting and explaining what you have explained to him or her without missing half of it. And of course, behind that lies all the things that we just went through. But we're seeing that a lot, and that is one of the feedback that we got on that partner conference I just talked about 2 years ago. It was too difficult to deliver that message on what is it, what's in it for you. And I'm not talking you, but the customer is, and you probably have the best model already in your own company. I'm just saying, by experience, you need to have that conversation. And if that can be shown on a 1-page or 2-pager with the customer's word, you are very, very long down the real sales cycle of doing this right. And then hopefully one customer leads to the next customer, to the next customer. 2 of those customers that I just showed before, Robeco, is a financial institution in the Netherlands, in Holland. The partner that is called At Work is a Dutch-Austrian partner. Very, very small partner, like 20 employees. The reason I mentioned it, they did this. They had just signed the contract. I think it was 3 or 4 months after, something like that. They got NN, which is a conglomerate within the Rabobank business, the largest insurance company in the Netherlands, just because of that. So then one case can actually lead to the other. They didn't even contact them. I mean, I know it's a perfect example, and they don't show up often, but it's an example of if you're doing things right, the word will also spread that you actually are thinking through the way that you're doing business. And of course, that conversation, you need to have that as well, right? What does all this new thing in Microsoft give you as a customer? How can we leverage that part of the business case? Yeah, I don't want to spend more time on that, but of course that's just as important as all the other stuff. Okay, let's talk about some customers. Royal Mail, the pendant to PostNord, I think it's called Posten in Swedish. They had a huge issue, which I think everybody in that business are doing. How many are actually sending snail mails? I don't know, not that many, right? So they are under a lot of pressure. They need to save money. They need to improve agility. They brought in 3 different partners. I mentioned them down here. CSC, that was a partner that actually were hosting Royal Mail Group. That's why I think this is very important. This was a partner in the hosting business that got the knowledge of that something was going on between Microsoft and Royal Mail directly, and they said, okay, if you can't beat them, join them. So they saw, okay, we need to change the way that we are doing the model, and they came in, a Finnish ISV, Kjaersgaard came in as well, and then a very small partner. I don't know the size of your partner skills here. That is why I'm showing you this. Second C, five guy company. And they were doing the exact same, the same we talked about before. Only project governance, nothing else. Just how do we orchestrate to make sure that we talk to legal, we talk to procurement, we talk to security, we talk to network, we talk to end user technology. Those guys over there, they knew all about it, but they didn't have the right skills the customer thought. So here you actually have three partners working together. There was a lot of bloggers in the beginning, but it also shows that there's money for everybody. That is why I bring up this slide. There's money for everybody here. It's not just the big partner game here. Definitely not. And as you can see, they save a substantial amount of money, 7.4 million euros a year of migrating to the cloud. But that's something else. And this was the thing that the CIO was measured on, improved SLA. They were so tired of that things was not running efficiently and that the business was pushing on that. So that is also one of the things that you should have the discussion about. Sometimes it is one thing that is number one priority. In another customer, it's another thing. And you need to find that golden angle into having that conversation. GlaxoSmithKline, I know him. He's a Ingo. He's a very nice guy. They had some really tough measurement here as well. It was also SLA, but it was especially time to market. They need to have the agility of having a collaboration platform that are really secure on the way that they are doing their pharmaceutical investigations, but they also need to be faster than their competitors in the market, and they didn't have that platform. Of course, Office 365 is not the right thing for everything here, and I'm not saying that this is the thing that are proving the business. This was one of the drivers for the business to make sure that they were not always 3 or 4 or 5 years behind, especially selling out in the last segment, selling out to doctors and the hospitals and things like that. They didn't have the end user device technology to go out, being offline and having the conversations and being ready to dot things in. It was Microsoft, it was Avanade, and it was HP. So of course it was large partners who were driving this. And here comes up again that little small Austrian partner. I love it because it's so small. It grew out of nothing. It was a girl starting this. She used to work at Microsoft 5 years ago, and now she has a fantastic company. At work is called. She was also the partner for the other company. So Red Bull, a fantastic company. I visited them several times down in Salzburg. They don't give a shit, sorry my language, about business cases. They earn so many money, and they have monopoly more or less. They just want agile, up-to-date, easy to go, easy to access platform with all the things over here. And the partner came in, that very small company, and sat down again in the middle of the circle and was just in the orchestrator and nothing else. Orchestrator. The partner was in there for close to a year. This was also a nose migration at the same time, so there was a lot of effort. And I know Martina, she's more than happy also to have direct conversations with you, if you want that as a partner, to have the insight of how is she actually doing business and how is she interacting directly with customers. She had made her own little governance model on how to leverage this orchestration of handling things right. So it's a decision on how and when and why. I think I repeated that enough. It's a matter of making sure that the business case is positive. And when I'm saying that, I'm too blunt. No, I'm saying sometimes the business case can actually be positive without being positive. And what I mean by that is, it's not only about numbers. It is still the number one, as I showed you on the other slide, But for some customers, if you can leverage that going to the cloud can give them other benefits elsewhere, then suddenly it is maybe the business, the CFO, or someone else taking the budget for you as a partner to go in and drive business. I think you have just as hard time getting, first of all, the right stakeholders, but also actually getting the contract signed, as we as Microsoft have, and everybody in the IT industry. But if you can turn down that it's not the CIO's budget, but it's someone else's budget, then we're in business. We're seeing that with social now, with Yammer and all the things growing up. It is actually out of the IT organization that the budget for having these projects are running. And then hopefully you can leverage business both places. That is why I'm mentioning that we need to find whether that is the SLA like on GlaxoSmithKline, whether that is leveraged line of business applications, whether that is being mobile as Red Bull or something else. It's maybe not an IT business priority, it is someone else's priority. And hopefully that can also help. And then this last one, that's the most critical one. And it is also the by far the most difficult one. When we're talking about this project model and everybody should be heard, so nobody are left out. I normally use the word, I'm not saying that to customers, but internally Microsoft, it's a matter of religion. Just like switching from nodes to Exchange, going from whatever they came from to the cloud is religion, right? You take, somebody feel that you're taking the bread and the butter away from me. I used to run that goddamn Exchange server down in the basement. Now someone are coming and taking that thing away from me. So having that religion conversation, you need to be in sync. That's why I mentioned it. You need to make sure that all these different parties are in sync. So at the very end, because you can't make everybody satisfied, and you can't, I've never seen that. I've never seen a customer saying, I'm 100% certain that going to the cloud is the right thing. Never. I've seen many customers saying, I'm 80, or maybe not by percentage, but I'm certain that I will do this, and I have the right mandate, I have the right stakeholders. Maybe it's that stakeholder, that one, and that one. If you haven't brought them together, they can't be in sync on this is the right thing to do. If you're talking with them isolated, we don't know, you don't know whether that guy or girl in end user technology are more than important that support or more than important than anyone else. And then maybe the case drop, right? So you need to have that conversation. And we know that it is tricky, but that is where you bring everybody to the table at the very end saying, how can we move forward from here? And this is the model, that CDF model, even more detailed down on how to do it and how to migrate. I'm bringing this one up just to give you the confidence that we actually have all the underlying material behind all the things that I'm saying. And if you haven't visited this Drumbeat, your external partner site where you can get all the content, please do. I don't know if any one of you are aware of all our incentive programs. I hopefully think and hope that you are. I'm saying this with a big question mark. You hopefully know that you can get incentives. We call it fast track. We also have other acronyms where you can get allocation from our money to help the customer migrate. It's very, very important, not just to give money away. Of course, we will pay or fund it, if you can say so. It should be, the message should be delivered correctly to the customer, so they don't think that this is just a payoff thing, and then, because then they're not buying in, right? Then we're not back to the trust and the relationship and the importance. But it's important for you to get started and to get up going very quickly. If you can say to the, we have the governance model in place, as I just talked about just before, that model around the $112,000. We have that in place. Please sign up with us as a partner right now. We can help you. And by the way, Microsoft and us as a partner will take the first initial step of the migration deployment initial phase, and we will help you with this amount of money to get it started. I think it's an important thing to do not to buy the customer, but to make them understand that the way and the reason why we're doing it is because we have so much. Now, reformulated. We have such a good assessment behind what we have been doing for the past 4 plus 5 years, like that we know that a normal standard customer of your size, Mr. Customer, that is within the range of X amount of dollars. It's back to that no customers want to be first movers. So if you come to the customer and say, okay, you are 500 employee customer, you come from Exchange 2007 or you come from Notes, okay, Microsoft will help us with guidance on how to do this, and the last project we heard about in the range of that customer cost X amount of Swedish krona. It helps a lot. It helps showing that we know how to do it. It also helps showing that other customers have done this before, not just going to the cloud, but actually in the very same mechanisms. So that is why that money in this case actually buys confidence, because it buys that we know what to do. You should, of course, deliver the remaining part of the project for the money, for the real customer money, if you can say so. So please go into that side if you haven't been there already. If you're signed up, you already get the information. If you haven't, please go there. Okay, so what are the opportunities for you? I think I went through all of this. The most important thing is to help the customer build the business case. If we move up from there to the top, that is the main thing. I don't have the right thing to say to you, and this is how you do it. That is why I've been circling around, if you can say so, around a lot of topics on how to orchestrate it, but also how to narrow it down to the most specific thing that are important for the customer, not for you or not for us. But I'm certain within a high percentage that the orchestration chart we saw before around whether it is a business-driven thing, it's an IT-driven thing, it's a combination of those two, it is definitely owned within either legal, security, procurement, network, and maybe with some linkage into the business. So if you can get one of those two stakeholders to get those 3 words in place, the trust, the relationship, and the confidence, then they can help you get to the guys and the girls in the business that you don't know, because you don't know it, we don't know all, right? Maybe you know 1 or 2 what you think are important stakeholders within the business, but they need to help you. The guys and the girls that are running and need and are measured on the business case, they need to help you to get to the other stakeholders that can help you drive this business. And take ownership. Taking ownership, not take, but taking ownership. I'm saying this here again, repeating it now for the 15th times. This is where the money lies in the beginning. Arvin are doing it at work, as you just saw before. There's a partner in Denmark called Proactive. They're doing this a lot. Second C, the small partner from the Netherlands, are doing this. You don't need to be experts. You don't. You just need to go out to the customer and saying, we have learned from Microsoft and from the way we're doing business right now, of course, they should trust you, of course, that setting up a governance model on how to orchestrate the assessment of going to the cloud, that's the most important thing for you. Is that right, Mr. Customer? They will maybe say yes or no, or they don't know what you're talking about. And then you need to leverage that and saying, we're certain that you need to find out where the black spots are and where the good business case priorities are. Whether you then at the end are going to the cloud or not, that's another thing. Then they don't feel the push that you need to go there tomorrow. They know that you will help them drive that. It's back to the being a hero thing, but it's also back to that at the very end, many customers don't want to take the last thing and say, okay, I sign off, right? Because everybody within the customer are pointing and say, no, it was him. No, it was her. I'm not sure. They want to be in control, and then they need to be in control, but they want someone else to blame if things go wrong. If you can put them all together, then they're making a joint effort, and that is what you need. That's the key thing. For all the last customers that you saw on the screen before, that was the key thing, and I know it wasn't easy. Some of these sales cycles has been taking a year, some 2 years. It takes a lot, But when you first get into that rhythm, you can also close business within a month or within 2 months. The Red Bull, for example, took 6 weeks for at work, that small partner, to close a pretty large global branded customer. So it is doable if you get the right stakeholders and the right mandates. I think that was it. I'm actually finished just before time because I thought that you were going to ask questions, or I'm talking too much or too loud or too